What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Scouting Combine here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. It's a big week here for the Miami Dolphins and even for college football as we're gearing up for Championship Saturday tomorrow. The Miami Heat play the Boston Celtics tonight. Make sure you check out 5 on the Floor and also Heat Paces and Spaces, along with pregame, postgame, and 3 yards per carry to get you ready for the Dolphins 49ers game. Today at the Scouting Combine, we're going to be taking a little bit of a different approach. We're going away from the schematics. We're going away from the X's and O's, but we're bringing you a two-part story written by Tyler Dunne from GoLongTouchdown.com talking about the rise of Tua, the coaching change between Brian Flores and Mike McDaniel, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, and even comments from Tyreek Hill, and what Nick Hicks, the owner of Perform, has done with Tua Tagovailoa. So please go ahead and give a warm welcome to my friend, Tyler Dunne. Tyler, how we doing, my guy?
What is going on? We are months overdue for this podcast, my dude. So thank you so much for the patience. I'm glad we reconnected. It just took a project, a two-part series on Tua Tagovailoa to bring us together. So I'm sorry it took that, but I appreciate you having me back on and not just kicking me to the curb like the girl that just maybe you wanted the date, but I just wasn't showing interest. So we made it happen. I blew you off in the summer. We're doing it right now.
Well, we're back, and honestly, we're back at a really, really good time where the Dolphin season is and where Tua Tagovailoa is liked nationally and media-wise as well. But Tyler, just a little bit of a backstory on this. What was your goal in trying to capture this story of Tua Tagovailoa from the start of 2020 to now where he is?
No doubt. And so the full two-part series, I think it came in at around 12,000 words or so. GoLongTD.com just for our paid subscribers. So monthly $8, annual $50. And if you go annual, I will also send you a copy of The Blood and Guts, How Tight Ends Save Football. So I got to work on the marketing a little bit. It's a whole new world for me running my own business. I think like everybody, I was just curious, to be honest, where you see this quarterback who I think we all remember where we were when he threw that touchdown to Devontae Smith in the national championship game, right?
Yeah. Where were you when Tua Tagovailoa
right?
threw the game winner to Devontae Smith?
I can remember recording it on my phone, a clip, because I was so blown away by Nick Saban's reaction to the sack before that throw, the camera panning to Jalen Hurts, and then Tua just going up to the line, second and forever, gunning it down the field for a game-winning touchdown. It was one of those college football moments that none of us will ever forget. So he's always been that player. I mean, back to Hawaii as a prospect, all with his heritage, that Samoan heritage, like your odds of making the NFL are through the roof comparatively. But usually you're an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, not usually a quarterback. But he was abnormal, the chosen one, Alabama, national championship game. He's always been that dude. He's always been insanely talented. And I feel like we have such a propensity covering the NFL to just write guys off, right? He comes in, not necessarily taking the league by storm because his hip is all jacked up, because he suffered an injury that used to end careers. And year two, the hip is better. He's feeling better physically, but he doesn't have the right head coach. His head coach is not giving him the support system that he needs, and it's just kind of ruining him mentally, psychologically, in addition to the X's and O's not being for the best, in addition to Tyreek Hill not being in town quite yet. I guess I was just kind of blown away by that all, to answer your question, where how is this quarterback that was a can't-miss guy that we all saw dominate the sport just look average, look small, play small, all of that? The wheels kind of got turning into this season because I had a feeling he was going to be really good, that when we were all watching the training camp clip of him, quote unquote, underthrowing Tyreek Hill in a bucket hat in May. Who gives a shit, right? It's a May throw. Who cares about a throw like that? 7 million people cared. Apparently, that's how many people watched it. So everybody loses their mind over that. And I'm just like, he is a good player. It's in there somewhere. And for him to go from the worst situation possible for a quarterback to the best situation possible for a quarterback was compelling as hell to me. So that's what compelled me to go down there to Miami, talk to everybody who knows Tua. You mentioned Nick Hicks at Perform. He's a key figure here. And I think that, this is a big stretch coming up, obviously, a 3-game road stretch. But right now, you can make the case that he is the league MVP. This is a turnaround that is right there with Josh Allen, if not better.
If not better, and we'll certainly get to that towards the later parts of the show. Let's go ahead in chronological order for your article. Seeing Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon, first of all, you talking to Warren Moon, dude, that's crazy in itself. Just talk about what a lot of Dolphins people have been saying the last 2 years just about Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, we all know his superpower is accuracy. He doesn't have a Josh Allen type of body or a Justin Herbert type of arm or Lamar Jackson's leg. His superpower is accuracy. When you've talked to players in Miami and outside of Miami about his superpower, how legit is it, just hearing from their comments about it?
Yeah. That's really something I had to learn over time. I think like most all people who consume pro football, we are enamored by the shiny object. What's popping off the screen? It's Josh Allen throwing it through a brick wall. It's Lamar Jackson turning into Barry Sanders in the open field. It's Patrick Mahomes fusing basketball and golf and baseball and axe throwing and name whatever sport you want into his own interpretation of the quarterback position. I mean, he just plays the game in this backyard way that is unlike anything we've ever seen. So that is the kind of stuff that is going to jump off the screen and enamor us and lure us in. And they took the league by storm.
It definitely took the leap by storm, and I'll go ahead and share this video with you. I know you mentioned the Trent Sherfield throw in your article. Go ahead, take a look at it, and we'll go ahead and see just Tua breaking this down one by one.
Yeah, I think on that particular play, it looked like a Palms look where if Tyreek broke out, they could play cover 2, and if not, then they'd play cover 4. So it really helped that Tyreek was also in the slot on that side. So we didn't know if they were going to double or cloud it or play 4. So I did my footwork, looked at Tyreek, and was trying to feel through Tyreek with the corner, and I felt like he was squatting. So I gave Trent an opportunity, and Trent made a big play for us in that instance.
I mean, I think everybody, when we watch that throw, as Dolphins fans and, just watching it as NFL fans and analysts and reporters, we're like, holy crap, where was this the last 2 years? I mean, with anticipation, with accuracy, explaining what the rules were, it blew us all away. And I'm pretty sure it blew you away too,
That was a throw where I'm actually talking to you at Fatty Beer Company. They are our hosts for our podcast. I was here when that game was on, and I think it was like whatever game was on the TV, they cut away to that game. And it was the kind of throw that, like, I'm having a conversation with my dad, and instantly my head just jerks into that direction because it's like, holy crap. That is a rare throw, and it's not for the reasons that we were just rattling off: Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, all of these dudes with physical traits that just pop off the screen and are rare. It is that anticipation. It is that accuracy. And it just took the right set of circumstances for that to see the light of day. I mean, the hit, we never talked about the hit enough. I mean, Nick Hicks was unbelievably honest in our conversation where that first offseason when they worked together, you're talking about a quarterback who's like 60% of himself. He's not close to himself yet. They couldn't really talk about quarterback play and the story and how they linked up and how he became his quarterback guru is fascinating. And I encourage everybody to subscribe, read it. Nick was awesome. But they had to get him right physically, number one. And that's what they did that first offseason. It wasn't really breaking the position down and, reading the field and improving arm strength and accuracy and all of that. No, it was just get right physically. So once that was taken care of, that's number one. And then, all right, you remove the poison that is Brian Flores as your head coach and not being supportive. You replace him with the exact opposite in Mike McDaniel, who is going to fill your brain with 700 plays of you doing good things on a football field. And you add Tyreek Hill, which is perfect. Yeah, Tyreek Hill's obviously transcendent. I get it. But also his skill set is perfect for what Tua does well. The anticipation, knowing where that receiver is going to be when he breaks out of his route, and then hitting him in stride where, like, look at the game last night with Mac Jones against the Buffalo Bills, where how many times was it just exhausting and laborsome? And he's throwing it to somebody over the middle of the field, and that receiver has to kind of stop on a dime, contort his body. But like you're wasting 10, 15, 20 yards. If you can just hit a Tyreek Hill, the fastest player in football, Jalen Waddle, the second or third fastest player in football, in stride, that 15-yarder is going to be a 50-yarder. Think of a 4x1 in track. Like, if you're going to hand the baton to somebody, you want that dude running at full speed. You don't want to come to a complete stop and then hand him the baton. You want to go. So what Tua does best with anticipation and accuracy fits his receivers best, fits a play caller who can, see the different dimensions of a football field and the layers and how route concepts work. And then you got Nick Hicks and his just, effusive positivity pumping you up, like that optimism. That's what Tua needed in that moment. It's been a perfect storm. That's why you have Tua Tagovailoa, MVP candidate.
Right, and it's funny you mentioned Mac Jones and the New England Patriots yesterday. The Dolphins had Devontae Parker for the last 2 years, and I believe he was the leading receiver in 2020, and Waddle obviously in 2021 because Waddle fit to his skill set. But I received, some criticism from fans and analysts alike when I said, I don't think Devontae Parker should be in Miami anymore just because he doesn't fit to his skill set. And you talk about it and those RPO throws, those middle of the field throws, you have to switch the hip and then you have to wait for the receiver to, actually make that switch and you throw it like Tua's main game is quick throws, accuracy, anticipation. He's already anticipating, but he has to wait for you to do it. With a receiver like Tyreek Hill, with a receiver like Jalen Waddle, and even a Trent Sherfield or River Craycraft, which we'll get to a little bit later on, he's able to work with those guys. But let's go to 2020 and 2021. The whole Tua Flores, two offensive coordinators, really, really bad offensive line. I mean, it was just it was a poison concoction, right? But it really, really hit the boiling point in Tennessee. And here at the Five Reasons Sports Network, if you guys are subscribed to OnlyFins at 3 Yards Per Carry Discord, and you guys have been following us, we mentioned there was a scrum during that halftime game between Tua and Flores. It was a game where Miami could have won if the offensive game plan was right, which it wasn't. If the protection was right, which it wasn't. If the receivers could catch the balls, which they weren't. If Tua could perform to expectations, which he couldn't. If the defense did their job, which they couldn't. But yet the story was Tua Tagovailoa and Brian Flores. Tyler, before we get into this, what was your knowledge before writing this article between the relationship of Tua and Brian Flores?
I knew it wasn't good, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot of smoke out there for everybody to see. You don't even really have to be that much of a football expert to watch a Brian Flores press conference and hear the way he talks about his own quarterback and put two and two together. Clearly, he wanted Deshaun Watson. Clearly. And I think that was public. And then I think privately, the players I talked to, he made no bones about it. Like, it was obvious he wanted Deshaun Watson as his quarterback. So I think a lot of people in the moment, right, myself included, I wrote a story about it at one point. Like, this is the trade that needs to happen. This is pre-accusations, Deshaun Watson. It just made too much sense. Like, of course, the Dolphins, you have all these picks. You've got this defensive-minded coach, so he's going to figure that side of the ball out. Of course, he had Deshaun Watson make the move. It made too much sense. And also, Tua, he had the hip. He's not himself. He's struggling. He's not. Then he had the ribs, right? He had that injury the second season against the Bills. It just made too much sense. So I think in terms of the relationship for the head coach, the dude who's running this team for all intents and purposes, to not be supportive of his current starting quarterback, it I don't think that Tua is the type of personality that needs to be coddled, right? I don't think he's the typical Gen Z living on social media, needs to be told how good. No, like his dad was hard on him. He's been around hard coaching. Nick Saban was his college coach. He
Right.
appreciates hard coaching. I think that he benefits from that. But at the same time, there's a difference between hard coaching and a Brian Flores who does not want you to be his quarterback. And is done. He's done with you. Trade deadline passed. He didn't get Deshaun Watson. Everything I was told, he was done with Tua at that point. So it's poisonous, right? It's. I think the more I talked to people, the more it became clear that one of them was going to survive this all, and it did all come to a head in Tennessee. If they win that game and then they beat New England the next week, they make the playoffs. An improbable run, by the way. Right there, got what, 2-7, 1-7?
Right, 1-7.
1-7. They're done. They're dead. Give Brian Flores credit defensively. What he did to Lamar Jackson on prime time, and they had a soft schedule, and Tua got healthier. They figured out a way to win games. At halftime, they're down 17-3 against the Titans, and yeah, they went at it. So, what a better way to put it? Like Tua, in so many words, told Brian Flores, "You cannot treat people and talk to people the way you are." Flores, in so many words, told Tua he wants him to play better as a quarterback, and they went out and they ended up losing that game 34-3. Full detail in the story, like I said, GoLongTD.com. Check it out. But it was not going to work long term. When the owner came out, Stephen Ross, and cited collaboration and communication, I think, if you didn't know any of this, you hear those words and you kind of roll your eyes and say, oh, that's just typical jargon, BS, nonsense, word salad. What does that even mean? Well, it meant a lot in this situation. Like, it was untenable for these two to work together, and Tua was in the right, Flores was in the wrong. They needed a coach who could accentuate what this guy does best. Because we saw it at Alabama, we saw it in high school. They get that guy, they go get Tyreek Hill, they build an offense that works for him. And you know what's crazy is it's kind of stupid, but like maybe all you need to know about this whole situation is Tua's luau, right, for charity. When Mike McDaniel's up there learning how to bang the drum. Like, I could never see Brian Flores doing that. I just can't. Like, that's the last thing he ever did.
I can tell you, Tyler, just being in the media room, with our reporters here at 5RSN and, also the beat reporters that cover the Dolphins, it wasn't enjoyable just talking to Coach Flores. I mean, Coach Flores got mad at a beat reporter because he reported that a player was most likely not going to play. And Flores screamed at him, basically saying, you gave away the game plan or you gave away this tip to the other team. I mean,
we're not that important. I hate to break it to people. We're not that important in the media. We're not.
Not at all. And even in the press conferences, it would be like 1 to 2 word answers, one sentences. Compared to Mike McDaniel, you get a whole block quote paragraph. You're like, what did you say again, Mike? Like, can you summarize that for us? And it's just the differences, even in being in the press room and in the briefings. It's a whole 180, dude. And I can't even imagine what it would have been like for the rest of the team besides Tua and the veterans like an Xavier Howard or a rookie like Jalen Waddle, Javon Hunter. Like, is this what a head coach is supposed to be? Is this what a locker room is supposed to be? Is this what the game plan is supposed to be? And I'll tell you right now, Tyler, Flores wasn't even in the offensive game plan meeting rooms. A head coach is supposed to be, knowledgeable of what the game plan is. The two offensive coordinator thing did not work out at all. It was a basic, simple RPO offense that defense has figured out. And even though defense has figured it out, Tua played average or above average the rest of the way.
They didn't have the R, right? They didn't have the R in the RPO.
You didn't have the R in the RPO. You didn't have an offensive line. You had no run game. Apparently, he couldn't throw deep in 2020 and 2021. I mean, we saw the throws, we saw the offense, and even in he was interviewed, I believe, in a Muscle Milk commercial, and it got viral this offseason, just talking about, the offense as a whole. He basically came out and said, the offense was built for one guy, which we now know was Jalen Waddle. If he wasn't open, what do you do?
Right.
What exactly do you do? But like now you
Simplistic.
it's very simplistic, and I'll go ahead and share this with you. If you were watching that Dolphins Texans game, Aditi Kinkabla, I can't say her last name. She was reporting for CBS, and she was a sideline reporter. She got this very quick story from Tua, how he was struggling mentally. He was struggling physically in 2021. He was hearing the media noise. He was hearing all the noise from, the trade chatter with Deshaun Watson. Like it was hard not to listen to his coach not going up to bat for him at the podium and just the way things were. I'll go ahead and share this story with you. And she basically summarized, Tua asked himself in the mirror every day, do I suck? Legitimately, do I suck? I'll go ahead and share this with you. It was a podcast by Lindsay Rhodes as well.
So Mike McDaniel is smart enough to recognize, I don't want this to just be words. So Mike McDaniel is smart enough to recognize, I don't want this to just be words. And I'm dealing with a guy who has every reason to be skeptical.
Did he show the
Mike
team?
Mike McDaniel starts showing it to people around the organization. He starts, essentially proselytizing about how fabulous Tua is. So now Tua hears him saying it. And Tua told us a great story. I didn't get to tell this one in the game Sunday. One day he's driving Teron Armstead home. Teron Armstead is the new, left tackle. And he says to him in the car, he's like, why'd you leave New Orleans? Why'd you pick us? And Teron is giving some reasons why he came to Miami. And he says to Tua, he says, but the one thing I want you to know, this guy, Mike McDaniel, he loves you. Like, he has not stopped talking to me about what he thinks you can do. And for all of us, like, Lindsay, when you tell me such and such said something nice about you, it really means something. And it meant something to Tua, so much so that he's sharing it with us.
You go from a change from a guy, a team, the media, maybe even some players not supporting you, to a guy you don't even know, cutting up 700 clips of you, showing you in his first meeting with you, dude, you're good. Telling other players that don't even know you a week in, saying how good you are.
That's everything. I mean, you need that. And like I said, it's not like this is a quarterback who is in need of being coddled. He's not this touchy-feely, sensitive, I need everybody to tell me how great I am quarterback, but we're all human, right? Like, you do need the support from the people who matter most. It's important. And he was, it's not like he's just trash quarterback. It's not like he is a Zach Wilson throwing his defense under the bus and is a bad leader. This is a great leader who's won a national championship game, who's won a lot of games in college, who had hard coaching, who was just thrown to the curb by his prior head coach. So to get that from Mike McDaniel at that point in his career was massive. And I really do think it was simultaneous with a Nick Hicks where you're doing the work to back it up. He did need to improve his arm strength, right? If it'd be one thing if Tua just needed people to say nice things about him and those people said nice things. It's so much more than that. It's so much more because he recognized he did need to improve in very specific areas. So they got together at a diner, Nick Hicks and Tua Tagovailoa, right? The start of their second offseason together after year 2 into this year 3. And they both were brutally honest with each other. Nick had 3 things that Tua needed to improve. Tua had 3 things he thought he needed to improve. And then they went after and they got it. Like, they incorporated a baseball program, a throwing program to try to increase his distance And I think we all kind of overblow distance when it comes to throwing a football. Like it matters, but it doesn't really matter. Like how often is a quarterback like Kyle Bowler at the pro day or whatever on his knees throwing the ball 70 yards? Like that doesn't matter. Who cares? But it did need to improve. Like he did need to get a stronger arm. So to his credit, he recognized that, embraced it, and increased his velocity by 21 yards in 4 weeks.
I mean, 100%. I mean, credit to Nick Hicks. I mean, he got bashed a lot by Dolphins fans, even the media and analysts. Like, just like how is a personal trainer supposed to, make a quarterback, throw farther or throw harder? But I mean, kudos to him, the training he was able to do. And you wrote this in your article, and I'll go ahead and read it off. Just the progressions were crazy from week one to week 4. Throwing like a square ball week 1, he could throw it 40 yards off platform. After week 4, 56 yards off platform. A regular football, 45 yards off platform. 63 by week 4. A rotational type of throwing, 35. Rotational by week 4, 50. On rhythm throw, 50 yards week 1. On rhythm, off balance, 71 yards week 4. Now, look, Tyler, Nick Hicks spent the last 3 years with Tua. Socially, we can see him defending Tua, but the point you made, holding each other accountable. Hey, I'm bad at this. Nick, I'm bad at this. Tua, you're bad at this. How does Tua's relationship with Nick, being his trainer, set Tua up for success years from now?
It's huge. It's huge because I think all of these quarterbacks have trainers, and there's a lot of really good ones. And if you're on the outside looking in, you might see the tweets, and you might think, "Oh, what?" Of course, Nick is going to pump this guy up, right? I think we inherently, naturally, we're all going to think that. Like, is Tua good? I don't know if he's good. His trainer saying he was kind of like on a hill, dying on a hill all by himself, telling the world that Tua Tagovailoa is going to take the world by storm. Which is crazy. And I think nobody really could believe it. I mean, the Dolphins even went out and signed Teddy Bridgewater to a pretty good contract. Like, they needed to see it, right? Like, they covered themselves. Like, if Tua didn't take the step, we've got a Jimmy Garoppolo type ready to be the quarterback. And Nick just kept telling us, no, this guy's taken every necessary step. He's got what it takes. And lo and behold, he made those gains that you just referenced. And I think it was in a place of substance. It wasn't a place of improving what he needed to improve. In a place of positivity, open him up. Like you need to tell us, like, you are a bad MFer. Like, you got it in you. You can be a stud. You were a stud. It's in you. He needed Nick Hicks at that exact moment. And I've known Nick before, so I did a feature on Devin Singletary at GoLongTD.com, and he had trained him. Lynn Bowden Jr. He's also been kind of known as like a running back guru, right? Dalvin Cook, Jerick McKinnon, J.K. Dobbins.
He does Dalvin's brother James as well. He does college athletes. He's getting people ready for the draft. He's training Zay Flowers as well, one of my favorite receivers in this year's draft class as well. Nick, if you're watching this, come on the show, man. We want to talk to you. We want to talk to you.
I love the circuitous like path to Tua, where it's not like it was a cookie cutter. Like, this is your trainer, and here are the terms, and this is somebody who just created a cookie empire in South Florida, right? Like, because he's just a go-getter. He's an entrepreneurial, like, go-getter. I will succeed. If I don't know something, I will figure it out kind of guy. And we need more of those type of humans on the planet in general, and that's exactly what Tua needed. And we're seeing the results.
We're 100% seeing the results, and you talk about just signing Teddy as the backup option. They signed him in free agency. I think 2-3 weeks later, the trade for Tyreek Hill. They're like, you know what? I think we've seen from Tua, the offseason progression. After the draft, mini camp, things like that too. Go ahead, trade for Tyreek. We've seen everything we've needed to see. Just that confidence within 2 weeks to like a month or two. Dude,
Huge.
that says everything. But look, we don't really see that that killer mentality by Tua in the media. He's a very, very private person, right? He's a very,
Yes,
very
fiercely private. Yes.
fiercely private person. I mean, nobody knew he was married until it got leaked, and he was very angry about that. We knew that. Now he's a father.
Which is refreshing. I mean, it's naive. Don't get me wrong. Like, if you get married, it's public knowledge. People are going to find out. But it's impressive. It's admirable because that's going off on a tangent. I apologize, but like all of these quarterbacks. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, for example, there wasn't a podcast interview that he turned down. No, OTAs can't go to OTAs and work with young receivers. No, can't. God forbid do that, which could help you on the field. But let's sit down with every single person with a microphone and talk about taking hallucinogens and self-love. I mean, like he used to be extremely private, which is kind of weird. Then he became extremely public. So we talked about that. We talked about a Jets quarterback, sleeping with his mom's best friend. We talked about suspensions, and we've talked about Russ Wilson and
Brady, his divorce,
Subway
everything.
commercial. I mean, it's insane. So I think there is something so freaking admirable about a Tua Tagovailoa who is married and values that part of his life, and that's like the foundation, that's the core, like that matters to him every day. And then he is attacking his professional life in a very distinct way. It's I'd love to sit down with Tua at some point and get into this all, but probably not holding my breath, right? Because he doesn't want to get into that topic. I think it's really cool. I think it's admirable because you don't see that often out of the position.
So I'll go ahead and share with you. I mean, just it looks like it's been a whole 180 with Tua. Okay, we're seeing amazing quotes come from his teammates, just the confidence he exudes. And Warren Moon said it. The most dangerous quarterback is a confident quarterback. And even Nick Hicks, he was on a podcast and he said, a healthy Tua is a confident Tua. And a confident Tua is a Super Bowl winning Tua.
Yeah.
This is a quote from backup center Michael Dieter. I remember Tua walking up to me on the plane saying, 11 a.m. meeting tomorrow. We're trying to get the whole offense together. This is from Barry Jackson's most recent article. Just 10 positive things that he's seen from the Dolphins compared to the last 22 years. It's good to come in here and watch as a group and hear everybody's perspective and honestly how Tua sees it, because that's all that matters. Tight end Mike Gesicki said, we're all just sitting there, but he has a clicker. He runs it. It's productive. And you said it in your article. Tua is the offense. He runs this offense. And you had quotes from Mike Gesicki and Durham Smythe, and I can tell Mike loves Tua a lot. What was Mike's demeanor when you were talking to him about Tua and the offense and all of that?
I think all of the players that I talked to, I mean, right down the list, from backup safeties to starting tight ends to backup running backs to starting receivers, the common thread is the confidence. This is a quarterback who is in a place mentally where, yeah, I'm going to stand at a podium and talk about Super Bowl. Yeah, you're going to ask me about those MVP chants. Yeah, it was pretty good hearing that, right? Like you need some of that. I don't think we really knew that about Tua. I think early in his career, we kind of heard him at the microphone and saw the way he played and saw the way he interacted with teammates. Very introverted, very quiet, very soft, looked small, played small. No, like if you're a quarterback, you need some ego. You do. Like you cannot be this like in a shell type of personality. You need ego to some degree. Yet you also need to be able to have that meeting with Nick Hicks at that diner and realize what you need to improve. And that's where I think Tua has kind of threaded that needle. Like I think he definitely was more confident than we ever knew, more take charge than we ever knew, but also self-aware and also knew where he needed to improve. So I think that he's kind of we're kind of seeing the real Tua now all of a sudden. This is who he's been all along. This is who he was in Hawaii. This is who he was in Alabama, working with his dad, working with Nick Saban. Like this is the guy. that is finally able to be himself. Also, Nick made a great point too. I didn't really thought about this before we hung out there at Tap 42 in South Florida. He's played in 6 offenses. Six offenses in 6 years. And we always tend to think of that as a negative thing, right? Like the whole Alex Smith line of thinking where, oh my God, Alex Smith, 6 offensive coordinators. Oh, he's never had a chance. Like finally he's with Jim Harbaugh. Nick kind of spun it and was like, Tua, look how lucky you are. You've been able to just gain this wealth of knowledge, offense to offense, coach to coach, and you're smart enough to retain that all and create your own encyclopedia where you can pull back plays and moments and situational football like unlike anybody else. I think he was able to kind of use that. It's so funny. Like we're pumping him up, and I do think like he's one of the best players in the NFL. At San Francisco this week, at the LA Chargers, at the Buffalo Bills. Right now, we're going to learn a hell of a lot about Tua, aren't we?
Well, we are, and I think the last 6 months we've realized he has a Kobe-like mentality. He's not on his phone. He's practicing. He's reviewing film. He's getting players together. How does this open up the door for reevaluating quarterbacks from the draft process to their first 4 years in the NFL?
I think that you need 2 things. You need to have that superpower, whatever that is. You need an elite trait. Is it throwing it through a wall like Josh Allen? Is it the elusiveness of Lamar Jackson and just basically being a running back in addition to what you can do as a thrower? Mahomes, the improvisation. Justin Herbert, just like freaking Paul Bunyan out there with his arm strength. You do need something that is different and elite and distinct, but you also need the work ethic to take advantage of it, to accentuate it, and bring that to the surface. Because I do think that there's been some dominant college football players who might have been able to take the NFL by storm like they did in college if they had the ladder. I mean, we all remember where we were when Vince Young did what he did against USC, right? I mean, that was insane. Single-handedly throwing Texas on his back and winning the Rose Bowl. Johnny Manziel.
I was in bed getting ready for school when I was
I'm a little older than you. That's right. I'm 35. Johnny Manziel, same thing. There's been so many just unbelievable talents that weren't willing to put in the work. So Tua had that talent. We just didn't really see it. It just didn't just scream at us. Yet he also had the work ethic to kind of address it and improve it and accentuate it and get to this point. So I think it's both. I've gotten to know Ryan Leaf really well over the years. Just unbelievable dude. What he's been through in life, it's unbelievable. He's so open, so honest, so transparent. I mean, breaking into people's houses to take prescription drugs to feed his addiction. He doesn't hide from it. He talks about it openly. He made a really good point where it wasn't necessarily the fact that he threw 2 touchdowns and 15 interceptions as a rookie that ruined his career. It was just how he always reacted to the production, the lack of. I mean, the struggles on the field. Something would go bad, and instead of just improving it, working on it, he just kind of put himself, way up here and thought, no, I'll will myself through it. I'm fine. He didn't just attack his weaknesses and improve. You need that self-awareness. And I think that, Tua wasn't Ryan Leaf as a rookie by any means. I mean, Ryan Leaf is the extreme example. But you do see careers kind of pivot one way or another for how you react to bad stuff that happens early in your career.
You see the Josh Allen type of arc, right? First year, second year, you knew he had some type of talent. He just needed refining. He needed that confidence. He needed that technique. By year 3, this guy was a totally different player. You look at Tua, he needed to get healthy. He needed to work on some things. He had a play caller that helped him. Same with Josh Allen, year 3. He's in the MVP conversation. I mean, there you go. Like, you have your play caller. You have protection from your offensive line.
Yeah.
And you have playmakers, which we're going to go to right now in Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson Jr. I mean, Tyreek Hill, number one, I think it shocked the entire sports world that Miami went and traded for Tyreek Hill. They're like, well, will Tua be able to get him the ball? Will Tyreek see the same production he did in Kansas City? Like he's gonna leave by week 3. Tua can't throw the deep ball. He's not gonna get him touchdowns. Then you see the opposite. Tua's the most accurate quarterback in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes definitely has the arm, but Tua's the most accurate quarterback in the NFL. Talk to us about what Tyreek has told you, what you've learned from what Tyreek has explained to you to that point of how impressive Tua's superpower is and how it helps Tyreek Hill become better where he's at.
I think we all assumed Tyreek Hill was spending a little too much time with Aaron Rodgers when he sat down on his podcast, right, with this ayahuasca hallucinogen. What kind of drug, what kind of plan are you on right now, Tyreek, to think that Patrick Mahomes is very accurate or isn't as accurate as Tua Tagovailoa? Like, it was crazy. That's another moment where we all kind of knew where we were when that first episode of his new podcast, it needed to be said, aptly put for the headline. He was right. I mean, that wasn't a hot take. That was an accurate take from a receiver who had worked with Tua all offseason to that point.
I think freezing cold takes account was waiting. He's been waiting for 12 weeks, man.
Yeah, I mean, and to Tyreek's credit, he did know that Mahomes has a stronger arm. And if I were to, cast my MVP vote right now, I'd probably still give it to Mahomes. He's ungodly. He's insane. But in terms of accuracy, in terms of what Tyreek Hill does best, catching the ball, doing something with it. Hey, I live here in Buffalo, New York. Everybody remembers the divisional playoff game at Arrowhead when Tyreek Hill catches a short pass and takes it to the house. Peace. See ya. That is exactly what Tua does best. So he was the receiver he needed. And I think that's really interesting now where I don't think that anybody's going to be able to figure out Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and how to slow these guys down. But if they are able to contain them to a degree, you're going to have to do it with 3 bodies, 4 bodies, 5 bodies, and that's going to create lanes in the rushing game. That's where Raheem Mostert, that's where Jeff Wilson come into play. You're going to need to run the ball this time of year. It's not archaic. It's not antiquated. It's needed. It's a needed element. You need to be able to play different ways. That's why I love Cincinnati. I think that Joe Burrow can win a shootout, and I think that they can grind out a win like they did last week against the Titans if they need to. You need to be able to toggle between play styles. We're going to find out right now if Miami can toggle back to that run-first kind of game where, all right, San Francisco, D'Amico Ryans, and they're covered. They're going to do a lot schematically to try to take away this passing game.
Yeah, it's strength versus strength between the both of them.
And hey, they're motivated to play their former team. They're very motivated. I promise you that. So I think that Jeff Wilson acquisition is something we didn't really talk enough about. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, both Mostert and Jeff Wilson, they're pickups from San Francisco, and this game certainly has meaning to them. You mentioned it in your article, and we've heard it all over Twitter and social media. Do you expect them to go off on their former team the way they were talking to you about it?
Yes, they're honest. That all came from a place of honesty of how they really feel. We're all human beings. Raheem Mostert goes for 220 and 4 touchdowns in an NFC Championship game and plays well the next year and hurts his knee. Doesn't like how the 49ers dealt with that knee injury. Wants to heal up, wants to make sure he's himself again at some point or something close to, which I totally understand. I totally get. I think he was 100% correct to approach it that way. I mean, he had cartilage torn in his knee, and you're going to be a free agent. You want to be yourself because guess what? If you're an NFL running back, there are a ton of college running backs ready to come in and take your job every single year.
Talk about this year's free agent class, too.
Yeah, completely. So I think Mostert was right to do that. And, yeah, he's motivated. Jeff Wilson's motivated. I mean, here's Jeff Wilson, an undrafted running back who is everything that any coach, any GM should pin up as the example for everybody in that locker room. Here's the guy on the practice squad, 5th string, 4th string, 3rd string, 2nd string, starts. All he does is run for 100 yards every time he's out there. These are 2 guys who cannot wait for this game. Trust me when I say that. Nothing out of context. They can't wait to play the San Francisco 49ers.
I think all of us want to see, and I put it out there on socials. I do think this will be the toughest test Tua and this Dolphins team will face all season, even if they make the playoffs, because that San Francisco team is the model that they've built on, and they match up really close with. It's going to be a test for the defense. It's going to be a test for the offense. The 2 head coaches, they've worked together for 14 years. I mean, we know Mike McDaniel's story. He started as a ball boy. His mom met one of the coaches. He was a ball boy for Kyle Shanahan. He was a ball boy for Kyle Shanahan's dad, Mike Shanahan. Kyle and him grew up together with the Texans, with the Redskins, in Atlanta, in San Fran. They've traded a bunch of players. It is going to be fun.
It
It
is
is going to be
It's a
fun.
game, for crying out loud. It's a game. I get it. Hundreds and thousands of people losing their goddamn minds on Twitter. It's a game. It's football. It's fun. It's a rivalry. That's okay, people. Right? It's okay to have some back and forth. So you know what? Everybody have fun. And I don't know who's going to win. I think Miami pulls it out on the road. I think their speed, their talent's going to be too much. We'll see. But it's football.
Now, here's the other thing. You forgot about the draft picks as well that they've did. Said Miami initially had the number 3 pick, traded back with the 49ers.
Right.
Said those picks led out to be Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Bradley Chubb. And who do the
Not
49ers
too
get?
shabby.
Who do the 49ers get?
Mr. Lance.
Trey Lance.
Which, I mean, it goes to show how the 49ers view Jimmy Garoppolo, correct? Right? If you're willing to give up 3 first-rounders to get somebody else after you've seen X amount of snaps from Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not a bad quarterback. He's average. Like, he is what he is. He had Emmanuel Sanders open for a touchdown to win a Super Bowl. Couldn't hit him. I feel like that's as close as he's going to get to winning the Super Bowl. And I don't fault the 49ers for, taking swings. And I think the Dolphins have a quarterback who can sling it, one could say.
And you know what's crazy too is, Jimmy G, the guy who a lot of people fawn over on Twitter, with the analytics and EPA, he was considered as an option to back up Tua as well.
Right. You're right. And they kind of found a Garoppolo-ish quarterback, right, to back him up. So,
But one
I get.
that
Like,
can
if you're
sling
McDaniel,
it.
but they have a guy who can sling it, which is accurate, right? It may contort and twist some emotions out there. And I heard some of those emotions from 49er fans this week. Sometimes the truth hurts. The Dolphins have a quarterback who can sling it.
Sometimes the truth hurts, and we have a comment here from Hooked Up Joe. I think McDaniel knows Shanahan better than vice versa. McDaniel for sure knows the 49ers D better than Shanahan does the Dolphins D. But I want to touch on Mike McDaniel, for our last question. He's a new school coach. He's not that Flores, brouhaha, alpha mentality. What do players like Jeff Wilson and Myles Gaskin need when he knows how to connect with players? Like, who is Mike McDaniel?
I think the players just want answers to questions, right? Like, how can you help me do my job best? This isn't Varsity Blues. Was it Bud Kilmer? Was that John Boyd's character? You don't need a coach in that locker room that is, telling everybody, keep Billy Bob in the game. And, you don't need everybody just going nuts with a rah-rah speech. If it's done right, a speech like that can be powerful. Like it can help. That's kind of like the salad toppings. Like it doesn't need to be the substance. Like you just need to figure stuff out. Schematically. All right, and Mike McDaniel's going to figure it out. I've got these players. They have those players. How can my guys beat your guys? If you're a professional, if you're a wide receiver in that Miami Dolphins room, how can you help me do my job the best? Mike McDaniel's going to put you in that position. All right? It might not be out of the movies. It might not be made for cinema. It might not be in Varsity Blues. Give me that coach, a modernized coach who just is going to connect in a way and not put himself above everybody, right? You don't need to be an authoritarian dictator. And trust me, the word dictator came up quite a bit when you talk to players who played for Brian Flores. You don't need that in today's NFL. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. How many people under Bill Belichick have gone on to lead Super Bowl winners? It only works in New England.
Mike Vrabel was almost there.
Anymore.
Mike Vrabel was almost there.
Mm-hmm. I don't even think Mike Vrabel's a dictator, though. I think Mike Vrabel's a really good coach. I think he has kind of evolved, and he can connect in his own way. But yeah, give me McDaniel, give me Tua, give me Tyreek. I think that this is a team that's got a lot cooking for all the right reasons.
Does that mean you have them winning over San Francisco?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. It is.
Do you have them winning in Buffalo?
I live here in Buffalo. So that I don't know how many Bills fans listen to your podcast, right? I got to pander to your audience. No, we don't pander. We just did a podcast here. My co-host, he used to work for the Buffalo Bills, and he's heard it from me enough times. I like Miami. I think Miami, if it's not like 50-mile-per-hour winds and it's not,
snowing 6 feet in a blizzard.
I mean, it's fine right now. It's like 45 degrees out. People think that the weather in Orchard Park always is just dreadful. No, we have nice days. It could be a nice day. I think Miami could absolutely come in and beat Buffalo.
Tua, does he win MVP if he plays like he has been over this brutal stretch of games?
Yeah, I think he is. Tua or Mahomes. I mean, Burrow could enter the equation as well. But if this is the stretch, right? These 3 games. If he goes 3-0 in these games, it's a wrap. He's your MVP. I don't know if he will. I think they win 2 of them. But if he goes 3-0, yeah, he's your MVP.
That's the wrap on this podcast. Tyler Dunne. Everybody, Tyler, where can everybody in the audience, Dolphins fans, Bills fans, 49ers fans alike, where can they find you at, my guy?
Bring them all on. We cover the NFL through a long-form lens. So, like I said, everything's profiles, team deep dives, Q&As, GoLongTD.com, part of the Substack platform. Subscribe, $8 a month, $50 a year. You get all of our stories. Also,
we got 49ers fans up in the building.
I love it. Bring them on. Yeah, it's been awesome, dude. I mean, to see how many Dolphin fans have subscribed these past couple of weeks has been great. So we'd love to have you. Appreciate it.
Of course, man. What's next?
And also, yeah, this series is for subscribers. So if you want to know everything we talked about and a hell of a lot more, GoLongTD.com.
What's next for Tyler Dunne and GoLongTouchdown.com?
I was out in Foxborough this past week, hanging out with Matthew Judon. So I sat down with Judon for an hour, which I know they lost to the Bills, but if they're going to have hope, he's got to be the guy that kind of wrecks stuff. Because they're not getting anything out of their quarterback. They're not getting anything out of their offense. It's kind of on Judon, who was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate up until this past game. So it was interesting. It was captivating. He's got an incredible story. That's what's next. Of course, I'm going to come back to Miami. We're going to have some more Dolphins stuff. We'll make sure we make that happen. So,
and we want to have you back here.
We'll make it happen. We're not going to go months on end without talking to each other. It's great to connect, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Tyler Dunne, thank you guys so much for coming on. Say hi to your podcast mate for me as well. I know I can't see him. He's in the background as well, but I'm sure it was.
Yeah. He's over there somewhere.
he's over there somewhere. Tyler Dunne, thank you so much for coming on. And guys, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys stay connected to the Fire Reason Sports channel. We have Heat 5 on the floor pregame coming up as they play the Boston Celtics. Tomorrow, college football preview as well. Better Edge, Prize Picks, those lines will be up there. And then, big game everybody's waiting for Sunday. Dolphins 49ers in San Francisco. As always, guys, Ben's up, baby.